May the 10th, 2014. This is the JPL from today for 209p linear. Now, notice it's outpacing Earth at this point as they're both coming around the sun in the same direction. And it's still above us, but it's slightly ahead of us. And it will continue that until it crosses the ecliptic, or the path of the Earth's orbit, on May the 23rd and dives in front of us. Now, we're not worried about the comet striking the Earth. We've been tracking the debris field that's associated with this pass and passes that go back into the 1800s. In other words, in the timing of the entire event for the last, thousands of years actually, is the Earth is passing through all the debris fields that it's laid down in each pass every 6 years. Now, the central or the parent body is linear of all these debris fields, and that's where the actual comet is now, right above us. This is the latest images, and I'll show you some close-ups, but the nucleus is very ragged on the inside, and that's telling me that it's multiple nuclei. Now, what needs to happen is it comes right on down through the 23rd, there passes. It needs to hold together. No more. We don't need a big solar flare. We don't need a lot of pressure from the sun on this thing. It needs to keep that ball of shrapnel that it is intact and going through. We're going to have enough things to watch with just the debris field, which NASA is calling a possible meteor storm, up to 200 per hour in some locations. Now, we got to watch what the effect of this combination of the Earth and the comet are having on our sun. And we just happen to have all of this activity moving around. You notice in the southern hemisphere and all the way up through this area, including this flare today. It was not an X flare, but it was a fast pulse flare, and the ACE satellites picked it up. We also had a quake just in one of the bays in Alaska, guys, of nearly a 6 point. I think it was a 5.6 or 7. I'll show you that. But notice all the small sunspots in this group, and they're really all tied together magnetically, and I'll show you on the another image. So, and remember, Earth is kind of in the southern hemisphere. It's not just right at the equator of the sun. But notice how they're already in a large group. But these up here are growing. I'll show you the sunspot summary. But that's pretty large. The two that are right there are facing, and then 3 to the left coming down at that angle. We can't take our eyes off these, because this is where linear is at. Remember, it's still above the equator of the sun. It's in the northern hemisphere, so you're seeing that. Now, that's going to be changing. Notice nothing's beta, gamma, delta. We have but 56 and 55, the two large groups, are dual configurated, and I've seen X flares, and you have too, guys, come from those beta gamma sunspots. They're getting large and they're Earth facing. Let's go back from the 7th until the latest images to date. These are Earth facing LASCO C2 images. Now, notice the timestamp. These are the last images, and what we had was that flare and a small filament release at the top, and threw some energy our way today. But what we got to watch for is from the 8th and 9th in those early hours coming into night. You see that? That's a powerful blast, even though it's a side blast. But this is the flare today with that small coronal mass ejection. The ACE, either they turned it off or it just the peak shut it down. You see that there's a gap in both the electron and proton charts, so it sensed it. And again, that caused that quake in Alaska. Now, these are the latest images of Comet Linear. The nucleus is very ragged. Look at this. It's hard to tell at this point how disintegrated it is, but I can definitely tell you that is not one solid nuclei in the middle of this. So it needs to hold together again as it comes over Earth. It's in the stress point because of perihelion. It's not on the day of perihelion, but for the next week or 2 weeks, it's so close to the sun that it's feeling that stress as it starts to bend back and out into the inner solar system. So you've got that possibility of putting strain on it. And again, a strong X flare, a strong coronal mass ejection. Do you remember what it did to iSun on November 19th? We watched a solar flare strip that tail down from 260,000 kilometers to about 60,000. So it can have a powerful effect on one of these comets. So, and we got that possibility because of where all the sunspots are. But check out these again. Very ragged nucleus. Now, right here was the 5.7, it's called. It was 28 kilometers northwest of Anchor Point, Alaska. Now, that's a dangerous area. We've had one there. The one yesterday, the 6 point in Mexico. So that you kind of got that pressure point on both sides of the San Andreas down all the way through the Denali Fault from Alaska to Yellowstone. Just a time to watch. Nothing very powerful at this point is directly Earth facing, but the perfect storm setup is there. Guys, you just don't have comets come this close to the Earth, and with that kind of solar activity facing us, we always see a reaction. We always see a reaction from the sun to these comets, and we're in that line of fire. Keep your heads up. Be safe.